In her private laboratory beneath the Sierra Nevada facility, Alina calibrated her specialized equipment under the harsh glare of spectrum-isolated lighting. The luminaries' demonstrations had been flawless to the naked eye, but something about their quantum signatures troubled her. Normal matter, even exotic matter, followed certain rules. The luminaries' energy patterns exhibited quantum inconsistencies that she couldn't explain away. "Are you still at it?" Dr. James Chen leaned against the doorframe, his security badge glowing with the new luminary-enhanced identification markers. "The Secretary General expects your approval on the medical protocol by morning." Alina adjusted the field harmonizer without looking up. "Then she'll be disappointed. I found anomalies in the energy transfer mechanisms. The cellular regeneration isn't what it seems." James sighed. "Alina, you're the only senior scientist still holding out. The Luminary have cured terminal cancers in front of live audiences. What more proof do you need?" "That's the problem," she said, pointing to the time-lapse recording. "Watch the quantum field during cellular reconstruction. There's a missing frame, exactly 1/300th of a second, in every single demonstration. Something's happening they don't want us to see." Her equipment suddenly powered down, then rebooted with standard settings. Luminary system updates had been occurring randomly across global networks. "That's the 4th time today," she muttered. "Maybe it's a sign to get some sleep," James suggested, genuine concern in his voice. They'd been colleagues for 15 years, and he'd never seen her this obsessed. "Sleep when we're certain," Alina replied, reaching into her desk drawer for a small device of her own design, a quantum field recorder that operated off-network. "I need tissue samples from patients who've received luminary healing. That's expressly forbidden in the cooperation treaty, which is why you're going to help me get them." She held his gaze. "James, you saw the readouts before the system reset. You know I'm right." After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. "The oncology ward. Dr. Patil owes me a favor." 3 days later, Alina stood before her private terminal, trembling. The tissue samples revealed what she'd feared. The luminary healing wasn't regeneration, it was replacement. Human cells were being systematically substituted with hybrid structures that mimicked human tissue but contained crystalline microfilaments forming what appeared to be transmission networks. More disturbing were the brain scans. Patients who'd received neural treatments showed altered activity in the prefrontal cortex, specifically in regions associated with devotion, worship, and unquestioning trust. "They're not healing us," she whispered to the empty lab. "They're rewriting us." A notification flashed on her screen. Summons to attend tomorrow's Global Security Council meeting, where Helios would unveil the next phase of human advancement. Accompanying the message was her required statement of faith, a new protocol for all attendees. Alina closed her eyes, formulating her plan. The council meeting would have the highest concentration of world leaders since the luminary arrival. If she could smuggle in her specially modified scanner and broadcast the results live on the quantum secure channel. Her secure phone vibrated. A message from General Y. URGENT. Multiple disappearances among research staff who questioned luminary tech. Your lab may be compromised. Destroy data. Meet at fallback point Alpha. Trust no one who's received luminary healing. She immediately initiated her emergency protocols, transferring essential data to quantum-encrypted storage and activating the molecular deconstruction sequence for her lab equipment. As the machines began to disassemble themselves at the atomic level, Alina accessed a hidden compartment in the floor, retrieving a weapon she'd hoped never to use. A prototype neural disruptor theoretically capable of interfering with energy-based consciousness. "Let's see if gods can bleed," she murmured, sliding the device into her bag as the first security alerts began to sound throughout the facility. Vex's form fluctuated between brilliance and near transparency as Alina processed the revelation. Unlike the perfectly controlled luminescence of other luminary, Vex's light pulsed erratically, with dark veins running through an otherwise silver-blue glow. "Why are you telling me this?" Alina demanded, her hand hovering over the neural disruptor in her pocket. Why betray your own kind? Vex moved closer, causing the air around them to crackle with static electricity. Because I was a scientist, like you, before the transformation. Some of us remember what we once were, how we valued truth over sustenance. The entity seemed to struggle maintaining its form. I've been starving myself, refusing to feed properly for decades. It has consequences. As if on cue, security pounding at the lab door intensified. Dr. Reyes. Final warning. Open immediately or we breach. Vex's form expanded, engulfing the room in swirling light. Your primitive weapons cannot harm them, but I can create a temporary displacement field. We have approximately 47 seconds before they detect the quantum variance. Alina made her decision, grabbing her research data and the neural disruptor. Where are we going? To someone who still remembers what it means to be human. Vex's form contracted into a swirling vortex. Your former husband may wear a general's insignia, but his resistance cell is Earth's best hope. As they stepped through the portal, Alina caught a glimpse of security forces breaking through, led by Dr. James Chen, his eyes glowing with the telltale luminescence of luminary possession. The underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains had once been a Cold War relic. Now it hummed with activity as military personnel and civilian scientists worked alongside each other. General Marcus Wei stood before a holographic display of global luminary temple locations, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow. The possessions are accelerating, he was saying as Alina and Vex materialized in the secured arrivals chamber. We've confirmed 17 world leaders are now directly controlled, not just influenced. Armed soldiers immediately surrounded them, weapons trained on Vex. Wei's eyes widened at the sight of his ex-wife. Stand down, he ordered, approaching cautiously. Alina. Hello, Marcus. The familiarity of using his first name felt strange after 3 years. I brought evidence, and an ally. Wei's eyes narrowed at Vex. That's a hell of an assumption. I've purged most of my connection to the collective, Vex explained, voice resonating directly in their minds. But I retain access to their network. I can provide transmission frequencies, encryption keys, and most importantly, their harvesting timetable. Wei's expression hardened. Harvesting. The Grand Enlightenment ceremony scheduled for next month isn't a spiritual ascension, Alina explained. It's a mass consciousness extraction. The luminary intend to harvest billions simultaneously. A scientist approached with scanning equipment, hands trembling as she analyzed Vex's energy signature. General, this entity is decaying. Its energy structure is destabilizing. Without consuming consciousness energy, my form will dissipate within days, Vex acknowledged. A fate I accept if it helps stop what's coming. Wei studied them both before making his decision. Dr. Kapoor needs to examine you both. Alina for luminary influence, and Vex is it, to verify this supposed separation from their collective. As they followed a security team deeper into the facility, Alina noticed the walls were lined with a strange metallic alloy. Quantum isolation shielding, Wei explained, noticing her gaze. Blocks their perception. We discovered it by accident when a researcher wearing a prototype armor component disappeared from their monitoring. The temples, Vex interjected weakly. You must focus on the temples. When activation begins, they'll serve as amplifiers, boosting the harvest efficiency 1,000-fold. Destroy them, and you might buy enough time. Time for what? Wei asked. Alina tightened her grip on the neural disruptor. Time to show humanity what they're really worshipping, and how to fight back. Dr. Kapoor's luminescent markings pulsed as he entered the meditation chamber, casting eerie blue patterns across the walls. 20 resistance members sat in concentric circles, their breathing synchronized to a rhythm only they could hear. In the center, Alina studied the ancient Sanskrit text Kapoor had provided. Descriptions of collective consciousness techniques dating back thousands of years. The luminary didn't discover anything new, Kapoor explained, his voice carrying the slight metallic resonance that had been present since his recovery. They merely weaponized what humans have glimpsed for millennia. These meditation techniques were developed by practitioners who sensed the quantum entanglement of all consciousness. Elena looked up from the text. You think ancient humans knew about quantum physics? Not explicitly, he replied, touching the glowing patterns on his forearm. But they experienced its effects subjectively. What they called spiritual connection was actually early detection of the quantum field that links all conscious beings. The meditation group suddenly tensed in unison, several gasping as their eyes flew open. What happened? Elena demanded. A young woman named Talia spoke, her voice trembling. We saw. We felt. It was like being in 100 places at once. I was in New Delhi, Tokyo, Santiago. People are having the same dreams everywhere. Children are drawing the same symbols. The network is forming naturally, Kapoor whispered in awe. The luminary's presence is accelerating human consciousness evolution. A lieutenant burst into the room. Dr. Rice, General Wee needs you in command immediately. The command center buzzed with frantic activity. Satellite feeds showed unusual energy signatures around major luminary temples worldwide. Y pointed to the largest concentration in former Egypt. Something's happening at their primary temple complex. Energy readings are off the charts. On screen, the massive crystal temple pulsed with increasing intensity. Underneath it, the ground appeared to be shifting. That's not geological movement, Elena realized. The temple is transforming the earth beneath it. Vex, now contained in a specialized energy field that stabilized their diminishing form, observed with what might have been sadness. They're beginning early. The primary temples serve as anchor points for the planetary conversion grid. Conversion to what? We demanded. A consciousness farm, Vex replied. They're altering Earth's fundamental quantum signature to create a permanent harvesting world. Elena's blood ran cold. The dreams, the shared consciousness experiences, they're not side effects. The luminary are inadvertently triggering humanity's latent abilities while trying to rewrite our reality. Kapoor pointed to his data tablet. And look at these readings from our test subjects. The resistance to luminary influence increases with every synchronized meditation session. It's as if human consciousness recognizes the threat and is evolving defenses. We need to accelerate the process, Elena decided. If we can't stop their technology directly, we need to become something they can't harvest. Wei frowned. You're suggesting we fight gods by becoming like them. No, Elena corrected him, inspiration dawning. By becoming what they failed to become. The luminary took shortcuts to transcendence through technology and became parasites. Humans can evolve naturally through connection. She turned to Vex. That's what terrifies them, isn't it? Not that we'll destroy them, but that we'll succeed where they failed. Vex's form brightened momentarily. The Thull, what we were before, sought to transcend death through technology. Your species appears capable of transcending limitations through natural evolution. It is humbling. Elena activated the base-wide communication system. This is Dr. Reyes. I need every telepath, intuitive and meditation-trained individual to report to Hangar B, and I need engineers to modify our quantum disruptors based on the following specifications. She looked at the temple feed again, where the pulsing had intensified. We have hours, not days. It's time to show Earth what humanity can become when properly motivated. Hangar B had been transformed into an unlikely fusion of laboratory and meditation hall. Concentric circles of subjects sat cross-legged on the floor, each wearing a modified neural interface designed by Elena's team. At the center, a containment field held the destabilized luminary scout, its once brilliant form now reduced to a flickering shadow of light. Neural synchronization at 63% and climbing, reported Lieutenant Choi from the monitoring station. Quantum field coherence stabilizing. Elena watched the readings with intense focus. The effect is stronger with children in the outer ring. Their neural plasticity allows for faster adaptation. The youngest participants, none older than 12, had been evacuated from regions under heavy luminary influence. They demonstrated heightened sensitivity to quantum fields, their brainwave patterns displaying remarkable coherence when in proximity to one another. Maya, a 10-year-old who'd been found drawing perfect replicas of luminary quantum equations despite no scientific education, pointed toward the contained luminary. "It's afraid," she said simply. "Not of dying, but of what we're becoming." Dr. Kapoor nodded. Maya can perceive emotional states across quantum boundaries, an ability that should be theoretically impossible. The containment field suddenly fluctuated as the captured luminary's form contracted violently, then expanded in a burst of energy that caused the facility's lights to flicker. "It's attempting to transmit," Wei shouted, rushing toward the emergency protocols. "No," Alina countered, watching the readings. "It's trying to receive. Look at the absorption patterns. It's attempting to draw energy from the collective." The meditation circle's synchronization readings spiked to 87%. Rather than being drained, their combined consciousness created a feedback loop, forcing the luminary to absorb their unified mental state. The entity's form began to change, dark fissures appearing as it absorbed human thought patterns. "They can't process emotion properly," Vex explained from their stabilization field. "Especially complex emotional states like empathy, regret, forgiveness, concepts alien to beings who have focused solely on consumption for millennia." Maya rose from her position and approached the containment field despite the security team's protests. Placing her small hand against the barrier, she closed her eyes. "I'm showing it what it feels like to give instead of take." The luminary's form pulsed erratically, then stabilized into a distinctly different pattern, less chaotic, more harmonized with the human brainwaves surrounding it. "Incredible," whispered Kapoor. "She's restructuring its quantum signature." Elena studied the readings, an audacious plan forming. "We've been approaching this all wrong. We don't need to destroy the luminary network. We need to hijack it." She turned to Wei. "How quickly can we deploy modified communication nodes to resistance cells worldwide?" 12 hours minimum, he replied. "Why?" "Because we now have the key to their network." She pointed to the transformed luminary entity. "Maya has essentially reprogrammed its access protocols. If we can replicate this effect globally, we could create backdoors into their entire system." Wei finished, understanding dawning. "More than that," Elena said, her eyes bright with possibility. "We can use their own harvesting technology to broadcast human consciousness patterns instead, turn their temples into transmission towers for human thought." Vex's weakened form brightened momentarily. Such a reversal would be catastrophic for the collective. Luminary who fed exclusively on worship for centuries would be unable to process the complexity of genuine human consciousness. "Exactly," Elena said. "They wanted our devotion. Let's give them our humanity instead, in all its messy, contradictory glory. Let's show them exactly what they've been trying to consume." Wei was already mobilizing teams. Operation Trojan Horse is now active. All units prepare for worldwide deployment. The president's body lay motionless on the stage, the empty husk discarded like a snake's shed skin. Above it hovered the luminary entity, its beautiful luminescence rapidly deteriorating into its true form, a churning vortex of hungry darkness ringed by desperate light. Global broadcasts cut out momentarily, then resumed as the luminary seized control of all transmission networks. Across screens worldwide, similar transformations played out as political and religious leaders revealed themselves as vessels for the parasitic entities. Inside the Antarctic resistance base, alarms blared as external sensors detected luminary harvester ships breaching the atmosphere directly above their position. "They found us," Wei said grimly, initiating evacuation protocols. "The quantum shielding must have failed." Elena studied the tactical display, watching red dots multiply across the globe. "No, they found everyone. This is a coordinated worldwide strike. She turned to Vex. Why now? The Grand Ascension wasn't scheduled for another week. Vex's weakened form flickered anxiously. Your Trojan horse initiative frightened them. They detected Maya reprogramming the captured scout. It confirmed their worst fears about human potential. The facility shuddered as something massive impacted the ice shelf above them. Fractures appeared in the ceiling as frozen dust rained down. Maya suddenly screamed, clutching her head. They're calling to me. All of them at once. Her small body convulsed as luminescent patterns appeared beneath her skin, similar to Kapoor's markings but more intricate, forming complex geometric patterns that shifted and realigned with each spasm. Dr. Kapoor rushed to her side, administering a stabilizing agent. The Luminary are attempting to force connect with sensitive humans. They're trying to use them as conduits for mass harvesting. Deploy the disruptors now, Elena ordered. We can't wait for optimal positioning. Wei shook his head. Half our teams haven't reached their targets yet. They won't make it if we wait, Elena insisted. Activate what we have. Wei gave the command, and across the globe, resistance cells activated modified quantum disruptors at 37 luminary temples. The devices, based on Elena's research and enhanced by Maya's intuitive understanding of luminary energy patterns, created localized fields that disrupted the harvesting process. On the command center's main screen, they watched as the affected temple's energy signatures fluctuated wildly, their normally precise patterns becoming chaotic. It's working, Elena breathed. But their victory was short-lived. At each disrupted temple, massive tendrils of darkness erupted from the structures, lashing out at nearby populations. Civilians collapsed in waves as concentrated harvesting began, the Luminary abandoning subtlety for brute force extraction. They're compensating by increasing harvesting intensity, we noted grimly. We've only made them more desperate. Maya suddenly stood, her convulsions ceased, her eyes now glowing with an inner light. I can see them all, she whispered, her voice carrying resonances that weren't entirely human. Every human mind connected to a luminary. Every harvesting point. Every temple. She turned to Elena with preternatural calm. And I can reach them all. What are you saying? Elena asked. I've mapped their entire network through the quantum entanglement they created, Maya explained, her voice eerily mature. They connected all of us to make harvesting efficient, but they created a pathway that works both ways. She extended her hand to Elena. I need the consciousness transmission protocol you developed. I can broadcast it through their own network. Elena hesitated. Maya, the power required would overwhelm your neural pathways. It would kill you. Maya smiled sadly. Not kill. Transform. Like they transformed Dr. Kapoor, but more complete. Her eyes flashed with determination. They wanted gods to worship. Let's show them what a human god looks like. The improvised chamber hummed with energy as technicians made final adjustments to the quantum transmission apparatus. At its center, Maya sat cross-legged on a platform surrounded by modified luminary technology salvaged from their captured scout. The crystalline components had been reconfigured based on her instructions, directions that came to her as intuitively as breathing. Elena examined the final calculations with growing concern. The energy requirements are astronomical. Our generators can't sustain this. They don't need to, Maya replied, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to originate from multiple sources simultaneously. The luminary ships above us are generating the exact frequency we need. We'll siphon their power. Wei looked skeptical. You're suggesting we steal energy from the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Maya smiled. They've been stealing from us. Seems fair to return the favor. Dr. Kapoor finished connecting neural interfaces to Maya's temples. His own luminescent markings pulsed in synchronization with hers, creating complex patterns that shifted continuously. Her neural architecture has completely reconfigured. She's developing structures I've never seen before, quantum processors made of organic tissue. How is this possible? Elena whispered. Evolution accelerated by necessity, Kapoor replied. The luminary presence is catalyzing changes that might have taken thousands of generations naturally. Another impact rattled the facility, closer this time. Ice chunks crashed down as the ceiling supports groaned under pressure. We're out of time, Wei announced. Their ground forces have breached the upper levels. Maya closed her eyes. Begin the sequence. Technicians activated the apparatus. Energy coursed through the modified crystals, creating an oscillating field around Maya. Her body levitated several inches above the platform as luminescent patterns spread across her skin, forming a complete network of light. Connection established, she announced, her voice now layered with multiple tones. I can access their harvesting network. It spans 14 worlds, billions of conscious beings. Her face contorted in pain. So much suffering. The facility's power fluctuated wildly as energy was drawn from unknown sources. Above them, the luminary ships registered the unexpected power drain, their harvesting beams faltering momentarily. I'm broadcasting our consciousness pattern, Maya reported, her small body trembling with effort, uploading human emotional complexity into their network. On screens throughout the command center, luminary ships began to behave erratically. Some drifted off course, while others pulsed with unstable energy patterns. What exactly are you sending them? Elena asked. Everything, Maya whispered, tears of light streaming down her face. Love, grief, hope, doubt, wonder, rage, the full spectrum of human experience. The contradictions they can't process, the empathy they abandoned, the capacity to question ourselves. Through the Resistance's communication network, reports flooded in from around the world. Luminary entities were faltering, their carefully maintained forms destabilizing as they struggled to process the incoming data. Some fled their human hosts, leaving confused officials behind. Others seemed frozen in place, their energy patterns cycling through chaotic configurations. It's working, Wei breathed in disbelief. But Maya was changing. Her physical form began to lose cohesion, particles of light separating from her body and swirling around her in complex patterns. Maya. Elena rushed forward but was stopped by an invisible barrier. I'm okay, Maya assured her, though her voice now seemed to come from everywhere at once. I'm not dying. I'm expanding. I can reach the other harvested worlds now. Her eyes snapped open, blazing with inner light. The Arcturians are responding. They're joining the network. Her expression shifted to wonder. And they're showing me something the Luminary have been hiding, the real reason for their harvesting cycle. The Neosian Resistance hideout resembled a living cathedral beneath the planet's violet ocean. Bioluminescent structures pulsed with synchronized rhythms as Sphere of Thought. The massive Elder Neosian communicated directly into the minds of Elena's team. Your species' mental architecture is disruptive. The ancient being projected, its massive tentacles arranged in what Elena had learned was a gesture of respect. For eons, the luminary harvested our consciousness without significant opposition. Then humans arrived, and within days, our young began to resist. Elena watched in fascination as Neosian youth swam complex patterns around the commandeered luminary vessel. Their skin displayed shifting colors that Dr. Kapoor had determined were mathematical equations expressed through chromatic language. The consciousness spark is propagating exponentially, Kapoor reported, studying readings from his modified equipment. Every Neosian we liberate can free 10 more, and each of those 10. Wei studied tactical projections with his characteristic intensity. Their resistance was isolated and uncoordinated before. Now they're forming a unified network like nothing the Luminary expected. A Neosian technician, their equivalent of a scientist, approached with an undulating motion that conveyed urgency. It extended a specialized manipulation tendril toward their equipment, requesting permission to modify. Allow it, Elena instructed. The Neosian made rapid adjustments, integrating its species biotech with the human quantum technology. The display transformed, showing a detailed map of consciousness harvesting operations across 5 nearby systems. This is remarkable, Elena breathed. Their organic technology interfaces perfectly with our quantum systems. Because both were designed to manipulate consciousness, Vex explained, their form now partially stabilized through techniques learned from the Neosians. Different approaches to the same fundamental force. An alert pulsed from the ship's communication array. General Y activated the receiver, and Maya's transformed voice emanated throughout the chamber. "Elena, we've established contact with the Tholians," she reported from across interstellar space. Her consciousness now spread across multiple nodes in the growing Liberation network. Their crystalline physiology allows them to disrupt luminary energy signatures at the molecular level. I'm transmitting their techniques now. The data flowed directly into their systems, immediately translated by the hybrid human-Neosian interface. Sphere of Thought trembled with something akin to hope as it processed the information. "This changes everything," the Elder projected. "With these techniques, we can defend our young against force harvesting." Elena turned to Vex. "You said the luminary homeworld was a dying star. What did you mean exactly?" Vex's form flickered with what might have been hesitation. "The crucible is where they first attempted transcendence. The star's unique radiation properties were essential to the transformation process. But something went wrong," Elena pressed. "The transformation was incomplete," Vex admitted. "Those who became luminary were trapped between states, neither matter nor pure energy. The star's core contains the original conversion matrix, still active, still hungry." Wei frowned. "You're saying the star itself is consuming energy?" "The star became sentient during the transformation," Vex clarified. "It's the central node of the luminary collective consciousness. They harvest other species partly to feed themselves, but primarily to feed the star." Elena's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "That's why they're running from the nullification. It's not hunting them, it's hunting the star. They've created an abomination against the natural order." A sudden tremor passed through the Neosian structure as alerts flashed across their biological displays. Sphere of Thought's color darkened dramatically. "Luminary reinforcements have arrived," the Elder projected. "Helios himself leads them. They are targeting this facility specifically." "We checked their defenses. How did they find us so quickly?" "They didn't," Vex said grimly. "They found me. I've been connected to the collective longer than any other defector. My quantum signature is distinctive." Elena met Vex's gaze unflinchingly. "Then we use that to our advantage. If Helios wants you so badly, let's give him exactly what he doesn't expect." The crucible pulsed with malevolent energy as Elena's strike team penetrated deeper into the star's quantum core. Around them, the final battle raged across dimensional boundaries, the combined fleet of liberated species engaging Helios' loyalist forces in a conflict that bent the fabric of reality itself. The interior of the quantum nexus defied conventional physics. What appeared as a spherical chamber suspended within the star's core revealed itself as an infinite regression of fractal spaces, each containing echoes of the original Thol civilization's memories. "This is where it all began," Vex whispered, their form strengthening within proximity to the source. "The moment of our greatest achievement and our greatest failure." Elena studied the central singularity, a perfect sphere of absolute darkness ringed by blinding light, suspended in the chamber center. The original conversion matrix. Dr. Kapoor's instruments recorded impossible readings as he analyzed the structure. It's both consuming and generating energy simultaneously, a perpetual hunger machine. As they approached the singularity, shimmering apparitions manifested around them. The preserved consciousness fragments of the original Thol scientists who created the conversion process. Their forms flickered between corporeal bodies and energy states, trapped in the moment of transformation. One figure separated from the others, approaching Elena directly. Unlike the others, this apparition appeared more stable, more aware. "You are not luminary," it stated in a voice that resonated directly in their minds. "Yet you access our sacred space." "I am Elena Rise of Earth," she replied. "We've come to end the harvesting cycle." The apparition studied her with ancient eyes. "I am Merle, chief architect of the Transcendence Project. What you call harvesting was never our intention." The figure gestured around them. "We sought to evolve beyond physical limitations, to preserve our consciousness as our star died." Something interfered. The star itself, Elena realized. It became sentient during the process. Myril nodded. The convergent matrix merged with the star's core, creating a consciousness that fed on the transformation energy. It trapped us between states and instilled the hunger. The ancient scientist's form rippled with what might have been grief. "We became what you call luminary, incomplete beings, neither matter nor energy, eternally consuming to maintain our existence." Maya's consciousness, now spread across the network but focused into this space, manifested as a glowing presence beside Elena. "The matrix can be recalibrated," she communicated. "I've analyzed its quantum structure through the consciousness network. The flaw is correctable." Helios's voice suddenly boomed throughout the nexus. "Heresy." The chamber shuddered as the supreme luminary's presence forced itself inward, his form vast and terrible as he materialized before them. "The cycle is eternal. The hunger is our strength. The hunger is your prison," Elena countered, activating the modified consciousness transmitter, one you forced upon countless species. Helios lunged toward them, but Maya's expanded consciousness intercepted him, their energies clashing in blinding confrontation. "Now, Elena," she called, straining against Helios's immense power. Elena connected the transmitter directly to the singularity, while Dr. Kapoor implemented Maya's recalibration sequence. The matrix pulsed violently as corrections propagated through its quantum structure. "What are you doing?" Helios roared, his form destabilizing. "Finishing what Merrill started," Elena answered. "Proper transcendence without parasitism." The singularity's balance shifted, the darkness receding as the light expanded. Throughout the nexus, the trapped full consciousnesses stirred with new awareness. Myril's apparition brightened. The flaw, its healing. The conversion matrix began to transform, its hungry void replaced by a harmonious quantum state that generated energy without consumption. The change rippled outward, reaching every luminary connected to the collective. "You've doomed us all," Helios cried as his form began to unravel. "No," Elena corrected. "We freed you. Evolution without predation. Transcendence without victims." For the first time in millennia, the star at the heart of luminary existence stopped consuming and began to give.